This is the Bible of the electrogenic cell. It's not just the best book ever written on the subject, it's the only book ever written on this subject. Brought to you by supporters of Christ. All right. Yo, let me show y'all something. Yo, you know what's crazy? I just got this. That's crazy. That just goes to show how long sometimes I gotta wait for books. I just got this, but I'm very happy. I'm very happy with it. Even they made a mistake on it, and the mistake is fire. Like, the mistake is fire. Look at this. They somehow messed up the printing where the bottom of the pages turn out black. I was like, yo, that's crazy. This is really Black's Anatomy for real. I wish they would have did that like a finish on the rest of the book. That would have been kind of epic, but just the bottom has that black. I guess some of the ink may have ran off or something. I don't know what that was. But that is crazy. Now, for the up-to-dates, I do have these three. I have 3 of the 4. Ah! I have 3 of the 4. I should say 3 of the 5 because there is a mysterious 5th book. There is a mysterious 5th book set to drop. I don't know when. I don't know when, but I know that I have about 60,000 words of random gobbledygook between what I scribbled in this book and my other 2 notebooks and notes on my laptop, on my iPad. I have over 50,000 loose scribblings. I have over 50,000 loose scribblings that are going to become something else. Yo, that's crazy right there. We didn't even do nothing yet, and we already we already got the video reposted one time for the one time. That's what I'm talking about. Everybody on Twitter, just go ahead and hit the repost. Even if you don't like the video, somebody else might like the video. This is health information. You might not like the video, but just hit the repost anyway. Just hit the repost. Right? Let's go. Shout out to the family. Right? The family is in the building. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the family. Shout out family. You know what I'm saying? That family up in here. We got some family. Yeah, we got some family up in here. We got some family up in here, you know what I'm saying? We got some family up in here. Is that the next class? That's definitely that's definitely the next class. But that was en route anyway, even before this whole, craziness, that was already en route. So we were supposed to actually be going from Melanin is Anabolic to Black's Anatomy, right? To Black's Anatomy. We actually been building up to Black's Anatomy for the last, I want to say maybe 18 months, maybe 2 years, right? We started working on Black's Anatomy. We started working on the Black's Anatomy with, I believe it's the Melanin book. If it's not the Melanin book, it is. If it's not the Melanin book, it is. I don't know, but it's an old. It's back there somewhere. It's somewhere back there. It's somewhere back there. So we've been working on it for a minute because here we go. Let me see. Yeah, no, it's before this. Yeah, it's before this. I think it is that Melanin. It's the Melanin, yeah. Because this is a workbook. So I believe that is the very first book, the Melanin book. This is the very first book where we started to develop the electric anatomy. So we have the whole electrician series. We have the electrician manual series. And I think that's probably about, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 books. We have the electrician series. And but it expanded outside of the electrician series to become like, what we would have an appendix in the back of the books, most of them anyway, just with an up-to-date, like it changed over the books. So as I learned more, we changed, some stuff we had to scribble out, some stuff, so, but it changed and then it culminated in the Black's Anatomy book, or at least the first Black's Anatomy book. Now that we have a series of Black's Anatomy books, right? But this is the quantum anatomical basis for comedic naturopathy and inspiration culture. So this is right. This is the main text for our anatomical study. And it is light years ahead of, it is insane. It is insane. Yeah, it is insane. So if you do not have, but all of these Black's Anatomy books, you gotta get the Black's Anatomy books. Like, just no way around it. You got to get all the Black's Anatomy books. I'm still missing one. You know what I'm saying? Six books arrived the other day. Yo, let me tell you, I turns into like, each book inspires me. Hence, right? Inspiration, right? But I get really crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because, and maybe because I'm, a main author, right? You know what I'm saying? I know you're like main author, Inky. You're the author. You know what I'm saying? But no, my children contribute. Um, but just having everything organized, because I'm not like organized like that. So this stuff is everywhere. Yeah, my stuff be everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So when I put it into book form, it's organized. You know what I'm saying? So I can go back through sequentially, and usually I get inspired to start writing another one. Oh man. Yeah, but I be I be locking myself up with books, even when they're not mine, though. Even when they're not my books, I always been like a hermit when it comes to books. Yeah, I could take a bath for like hours, for hours, and just work through some books. Like I could just work through them, like you know what I'm saying, like knock them down systematically. You know what I'm saying? I'm a water guy, Inky, hence the name Inky, right? Um, but yeah, I'm a water guy. You know what I'm saying? So I can knock some books down. You know what I'm saying? I get some new books. I'm hiding from the world. I'm hiding from the world. Yeah, so I get a box with 6 books in it. I'm happy you here in the live stream. I'm happy you here in the live stream because I might not even be on the YouTube. Yeah. That's a fact. It'd be a lot of raising that. It'd be a lot of raising that. It gets crazy. My feet and hands look shriveled. But actually, it just be my feet. You know what I'm saying? Because my hands, I'm usually working. You know what I'm saying? So I have my laptop or something. You know what I'm saying? I'll probably have my laptop, my notebooks, and whatever books I'm studying. Yeah. Laptop, notebooks, books, and I'm set. I don't even need nothing to eat. Like I just need my books, my notebooks, so I can scribble, and then my laptop so I can get crazy. Yo, hey yo, that's crazy. That's crazy. That is crazy. Yeah. They don't think about it. I don't think about it either. I'm telling you, having a like a death experience, you see the world different. Telling you, after my heart stopped, I was like, oh, I got to hit the ground running. And then you would think like you would be on like a mission, like a get rich or die trying mission, but nah, you get hyper safe too. So you want to live life aggressively, but it's not just like savage mode. You know what I'm saying? You kind of look both ways before you cross the street type of vibe. Like, you know what I'm saying? After we get to a certain point, you stop doing that. You know what I'm saying? You stop. But when you have that near death experience or actual death experience, there's a difference between a near death and actual death experience. you have an actual death experience, yeah, you start looking both ways like twice. You know what I'm saying? But depression turns you to information. Well, that's a good thing. That is a good thing. Depression turns you to information. Everything turns me to information. I can't hold you. I get anxious, I need to study. I get depressed, I need to study. I get excited, I need to study. It is a defect. It is a mutation. I got a gene. I got a mutated gene. Darwin. I got a Darwin. You know what I'm saying? I got a mutated gene. I got a mutated gene that has led me to systemic overstudying. Peyton, I appreciate that super chat the other day. Did I get to say that? I think I said that to you the other day. We missed you the other time. All right, so we got to talk about irreducible complexity today. Irreducible complexity is very, very important. Irreducible complexity is a very, very important part of the conversation we need to have. Yeah. Irreducible complexity is a very important part of the protein conversation. Now, when people hear the term irreducible complexity, automatically they think Jesus. They just immediately think Jesus. They just go right to Jesus. Like, oh, you're talking about Jesus. No. We're not talking about Jesus. I'm not talking about Jesus. I'm not talking about God, Yahweh, Yahshua, Allah, Buddha, Muhammad, Osiris, Zeus. I just had to throw that out there. I feel like somebody needed to hear that. But no, I'm not speaking. I'm not speaking about any specific God or anthropomorphized intelligence, to be more specific. I'm not speaking of any anthropomorphized intelligence or ideology surrounding such a supernatural figure. It is strictly a term that has been grossly distorted. In fact, it is probably the most highly contested word in the scientific community. Irreducible complexity. If you know a scientist that is on the side of evolution and y'all are having a friendly discussion, you might have just loaned him $20. You might have just helped his mama across the street. You might have just, stopped bullies from bullying his kids at school. just fill in the blank. You might have just done something amazing for this person. Should you mention irreducible complexity to this person, make sure you are standing outside of arm's distance. Do not be within arm's distance. If you are in arm's distance, you are liable to get punched, slapped, smacked, scratched, grabbed, wrestled down, any manner of violence befitting the rage that you have unfortunately inspired in this individual is likely to befall you in that moment. It is the equivalent of saying your mother. It is the equivalent of saying your mother. Like it is very, very inflammatory. It is very inflammatory. I want y'all to understand this. This is a disclaimer for your safety. Y'all playing around in the chat. Listen, this is a disclaimer for your safety. Do not hit me up in a day or two from the emergency room with stitches talking about, so Inky, I was out there with the book, and what had happened was, I'm gonna tell you, I told you don't run up on them folks. I'm gonna tell you, listen, I told you, don't run up on them folks and just say irreducible. Don't you say it. Don't say that. Okay? Because it is the one thing. Listen to what I'm telling you. It is the one thing. The one thing. Listen, when I say the one thing, it is the one thing. The single individual, the individual one thing that, listen, no superhero of evolution is impervious to. And it is very important in our discussion on proteins. It is very important in our discussion on proteins, anatomy, physiology, and the like. So it has a very important context to the greater the grand scheme of things. It has a much, much, much more importance to health, healing, wellness, medicine in the future. It has implications for why America's healthcare system is dead last. These are the real things. You know what I'm saying? These are the real things. Like people that are beating on their chests about the current state of science, to me, is insane. Because the current state of science has created a climate in America where we literally have the worst medical system in the in the civilized world. That's what they say, even though that's highly disrespectful, right? They still find a way to violate indigenous people, but yeah, so in the organized, wealthy world, the colonized countries, America, Europe, Japan, so on and so forth, the global powers, we have the worst healthcare system. And it's been that way for a long time. So it is insane. But this concept of irreducible complexity, it has everything to do with the overlapping codes in the DNA that we talked about the other day. Yeah, let's. I think we should probably start there. That's a good place to start. And I'm gonna take some notes for myself. Right? Interdependent codes produce interdependent systems. Interdependent codes produce interdependent systems. Listen, careful. Listen, I want y'all to start taking some boxing classes. I'm gonna have to go sign up because I'm out of it. I haven't been in a jiu-jitsu class in a long time, but I might have to take me some jiu-jitsu. I'm gonna have to get back in the jiu-jitsu shape. Jiu-jitsu shape is a different kind of shape. Boxing shape is a different kind of shape. I'm telling you, you got to get ready. Because you asking some dangerous questions, Peyton. I'm just letting you know you asking dangerous questions. The people gonna be on you. Listen, do you know that the let me tell y'all something that's serious. Listen, because I want y'all to know that I'm joking, but I'm not really joking. Right? The most infamous school shooting. Remember, it was those two boys, and they shot up their school. I forgot what their names was. It was two boys, and they shot up their school. That was the main. That was before it became like a unfortunate like string of occurrences over the past decade or so. But there was like one school shooting that just was like, and it was two boys that did it. Do y'all remember that? Anybody in the chat? Do y'all remember that incident? It might have been Columbine. It might have been Columbine. I think it was Columbine. Yeah, let me look this up and see. Hold up, let's look this up. Let me see something. Yes. Okay. Look at this. Let me show y'all something. Because y'all think, listen, let me tell y'all something. Y'all think when y'all see me on the internet arguing with these people that it's something intrinsic to the people. It's not. It's something intrinsic to the insane theory. I'm telling you, it's a deeply rooted, like a crazy thing. Let's watch this. Look at this. Just look at the question. And don't look at my spelling. Just look at the question. Y'all see that? I want y'all to see this. You see that? I just want y'all to see that. so just understand. You see what I'm saying? Like it gets wild. These people are crazy. These people are crazy, right? And so when we start to talking about this word, this term right here, I just want you to know that this term insights, it's very it seems like it's an innocent term. But boy, oh boy. Irreducible complexity. Irreducible complexity, right? So remember, Darwin said that things have to happen gradually, right? Especially complex, stuff. And we've been looking at a bunch of complex stuff, right? Like sperm, right? Let's take sperm, for instance. If the proteins that form the flagellar motor of a sperm cell were to have evolved over time, guess what? Nobody would exist. Nobody would exist. How could no motor, no sperm mobility, no pregnancies. It's a wrap. And guess what? We're moving back towards that. We're moving back towards a problem globally with making babies. So that's another interesting little caveat. But this term here, when you talk about irreducible complexity, it is part and parcel of another term. So here's a much safer term that you can use. Here's a much safer term that you can use. Emergent properties. Right? These terms are not synonymous. They don't mean the same thing, but they're very related. Right? They're very related. Right? An emergent property is a property that exists when you combine certain parts together, right? You combine certain parts, and then all of a sudden, there's a new property that doesn't exist in any of the individual parts. And not only doesn't that new property exist in any of the individual parts, it would be almost impossible to predict in a random situation this emergent property coming from these parts, right? And of course, in reverse, should you remove one of the parts from the system, the emergent property disappears, right? Should you remove one of the parts, the emergent property disappears, right? Now, the problem with that is, for the flip side, on the evolution side, you would have to have it. Well, it just doesn't work. It immediately debunks. This is why it's so inflammatory, because you can't have several unique parts evolve from various sources and come together in a functional sense and create an emergent property. The reason why that can't happen is because there's information that you would need to fit those parts together. There's information that you would need for those parts to even be put together, right? And so what evolutionists will do is, this is where insanity comes in. If you press them for evidence of something that is, let's not even say irreducibly complex. Let's just say a part that has multiple unique parts to it. Like when we talk about the flagellar motor, let's stick with the motor. It has unique parts. Well, what they'll do is they'll say something like, well, we know that co-adaption, this part developed. So they'll say, like, here's a bird, right? This bird has a unique part, a unique little molecular machine or whatever. But we seen a similar part that was inside a fish 200 million years ago. And we seen another similar part that was in a whale 800 million years ago. And then there's a dinosaur bone that has something from. And so you ask them, well, how did those parts get from all those separate animals? How did they all get into one animal? Oh my God. Listen, I know some of this seems a little crazy and like I'm oversimplifying, but again, it's not that it seems crazy. It is crazy. It doesn't just seem crazy, it is crazy. I want you to understand that. Yeah, it's not that it seems crazy. It is crazy. Just know that for sure. It is crazy. It's not that it seems crazy. Yeah, but not just all of the parts are needed to function. It's an emergent property, like a property that you couldn't have predicted otherwise. You couldn't have predicted otherwise, right? Because there's an aspect of randomness to to natural selection. There's an aspect of randomness. And so you have to get like a series of winning lotto tickets back to back in order to get one unique part, which is where combinatorial inflation comes in, right? Combinatorial inflation. That is another concept that we need to wrestle with. But irreducible complexity, right? We need to learn all of the ins and outs about this term, right? So here is one of the outs about this term. One of the things that you'll get told to you if you should use this term, right? And make sure you got your mace or your pepper spray on you if you do decide to mention this term to somebody. You'll be told that this is an unscientific term because the person who invented the term was religious. Now, again, for most people that are not well informed, that will be enough for them. They'll be like, oh, I'm glad you told me that. I didn't know that was not a scientific term. Yeah, one of those religious people made that up. Then somebody who's a little more informed will come along and say, wait a minute. So if a religious person comes up with a scientific term, that disqualifies it? Yeah, because science is not religion. Great. So that means we're taking Albert Einstein off the table because Albert Einstein was highly religious. So we got to get rid of all of this Einstein work. We've got to get rid of all of Isaac Newton's work. Yeah, we got to get rid of all James Clerk Maxwell's work. So we no longer have electromagnetism. See, all you have to do is just listen. When I was young, I spent so much time in the house by myself. I didn't know it was going to come in handy, but I watched PBS and I still got that in my mind. In fact, it was traumatic for me to see the movie Roots, because when I saw the movie Roots, I had already had years of programming from the Reading Rainbow. So if y'all don't know what the Reading Rainbow is, the guy from Roots that got whooped, what's your name? Kunta. What's your name? Kunta. That guy is the host, or was the host, of a children's reading program where the show teaches and encourages children to read. It's called the Reading Rainbow. You take a look, it's in the book, the Reading Rainbow. I can't go anywhere. I'm one of those kids. I was watching that show every day. And it was hosted by, I want to say his name is Lamar something or other. But anyway, when I seen Roots, I was traumatized. I was like, yo, this is crazy. This is crazy. That's the Reading Rainbow. That's how they going. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, back to live action. Anyway, what most people don't know is we would also have to take Charles Darwin's work off the table. That is an instant debunk for Charles Darwin, because a lot of these people that are Darwinists don't know that Darwin's college degree is in theology. Darwin went to school to be a preacher. All of these people are religious. So if we take away scientific terms, concepts, and ideas simply because the person who came up with them is religious, then we would not have science. We would not be able to fill up a textbook. That we would not be able to fill up one textbook with anything, because we wouldn't have anything to stand on. Period. All of the middle, without even getting deep going into Kemet or anything, you know what I'm saying? Like we just stay right here with Europe, right there with Germany. All of these people are religious. All of them. All of the big names. All of the big names. You know what I'm saying? All of the big names, at least leading up into the 1900s. I don't know about after the turn of, the 20th century, how it might have got crazy. But I know the foundation guys, Isaac Newton, Max Planck, James Clerk Maxwell, all Einstein, all of these guys were religious. Right? So we gotta take that kind of stuff off the table. Yeah, people gotta read more. They don't read. So they saying crazy things that they don't know debunk their own argument. So the moment somebody tells you irreducible complexity, it's not a scientific term because a religious guy made it up, you gotta say, oh, well, then we don't have science. Yeah, we don't even have science. We might as well just get rid of science, because all of science, all of the foundational principles that we have today, physics, which is largely considered to be the foundational science of all sciences, physics, was created by highly religious folks. Highly religious folks. In fact, physics was created to better understand religion. I want y'all to have some solid footing. Physics was created to have a better understanding of the creator. That's where this stuff is coming from. That's why Einstein called quantum entanglement spooky action at a distance. Because he was highly religious. He was born religious. So once he got into what he saw with quantum entanglement, it immediately reminded him of his religious texts. So it was spooky. Chill. Listen. So we have to have our armor, right? We have to have our armor. And your armor is specific knowledge, specific understanding, right? Specific knowledge, specific understanding. Pretty much trying to figure out, that's literally how it I mean, if you think about the original questions, like, and obviously we don't know the original questions, right? But if you think about early man, right, what is he trying to figure out? What is he trying to figure out? He's trying to figure out where he is, how he got here, right? Where he is, how he got here. Looking around, seeing other stuff. And once he learns how to make some stuff, right? Once he starts making anything, he's going to ask himself, who made him? Who made the stuff around him that he didn't make? I didn't make any of this. Who made all this? Because this stuff looks way more complicated than anything I can make. This is interesting. Who made this? Who put those up there? What are those things? Did those things make this? Like, you just a variety of questions, right? And so some of those observations and early questions obviously lead to spooky, nonsensical, foolish, but some of those questions lead to scientific inquiry. Some of those questions lead to scientific discovery. Some of those questions lead to cell phones and laptops. Right? Some crazy, ridiculous ideas, right? Especially if you add a little, I don't know, you add a little drinky drink in there, or a little smoke or something, you add a little muff kazoot. You can get to some real different places. You can get to some real different places, right? Because there's a passage in the Bible where Job says something crazy. Job says something crazy. Hold on, let me find this. It's so crazy. It kept me up for a few nights. It's how crazy it is. Let me find this Job thing real quick. Let me see here. I think this is it. Job 38. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's get us into the King James. Yeah, because Job is on one. In this 30, in this whole passage here, Job is on one. This whole passage is wild. This whole passage is wild, but this one was kind of crazy. Look at this. Here we go, right here. Can you raise your voice to the clouds? Hold on. This one right here. This right here is wild. This is wild. Especially coming right before this. Look at this right here. This is wild right here. Do you send lightning bolts on their way? Do they report to you, here we are? Bruh, that is the wildest. And it comes right before who gives the ibis its wisdom. That's a clear Kemetic signature. Like, that's literally as if the land of Kemet, imagine the land of Kemet, literally the ground of Kemet, got up, turned into a person, got an ink pen, and signed the Bible right in there. That's crazy. The ibis, its wisdom, there's only one known reference for the ibis having wisdom. That's Jehudi. That is Jehudi, aka Thoth. But you know, we don't want to get lost in chakra world or anything crazy. So we want to refrain from using the term Thoth as much as possible. Sometimes it just fits. Sometimes you have to use the word Thoth, but we want to stay grounded in Jehudi, right? But that's crazy, right? Just to have that little reference right there. But the first part, sending lightning and letting the lightning say, here we are. That's crazy right there. Only crazy in the context of that's what we live off now. Literally, that's what the laptop is. That's what a cell phone is. Right now, in 2025, it's commonplace. We can send encoded light anywhere. We can capture light, right? We can capture electrical light, right? We can capture electricity and light and send it anywhere we want around the world in an instant. On Comedicine the other night, Saint HJ was trolling me about WhatsApp, but hey, WhatsApp, you can call anywhere in the world. Yeah. You can send light anywhere and have that light speak on the other end. Yeah, I can pick up my phone and I can say whatever I want to say, whoop, and then, in fact, that's happening right now. Right now, I'm sending light to you wherever you're at, and you got your phone, your tablet, your laptop, your TV. I'm like, yo, that's crazy right there. That's wild. But that's how imagination, right? That's how belief, that's how, the mind's ability to figure and wonder and put things together and recognize patterns and not just recognize a pattern, but recognize a potential that maybe other people can't even see yet and bring it into reality. That's how that's how powerful your mind is, right? It can go into a zero place, a 0 point, and pull stuff right out from it. Stuff that does not exist. Now it exists. And then for future generations, it'll become commonplace. That's why I tell people that's around my age, if you're in your 40s, you are in the sweet spot. If you're in your 40s, if you're in your 50s, you are in the sweet spot, because we were alive to see the Jetsons. We watched the Jetsons. The Jetsons proves everything. What does the Jetsons prove? The Jetsons prove that within just a couple of decades, things that we thought was impossible can become commonplace reality. Because this right here, what we're doing right now, was on the Jetsons. This was on the Jetsons. And we thought it was impossible. And it was regular to think it was like it was just impossible. Like, yeah, in the future one day we're gonna be talking on the like. Now it's regular. Yeah, now it's regular. Now, girls put their phone in their back pocket, sit on it, break it, go get the phone fixed and put it back in their back pocket again. Right? Kids spill drinks on it, we don't care anymore. Like, it's just commonplace. We're looking for the next thing. Right? We're waiting to be able to levitate with, the flying cars or something. Right? We're looking forward to Elon, but putting tunnels in the Mars. Yeah, it's wild, man. We seen a lot of different things. Man, I thank you for being over there picking it up. Yeah, I thank you for being over there picking it up. Right? But we are in one of those time periods. So it's not just enough to recognize that things that were impossible when we were kids are now commonplace as adults. We need to take that into consideration and run with it. Right? Because the world is changing. Right? The world is changing. For the very first time ever, we can see fertilization. Nobody even appreciates or respects that. Nobody appreciates or respects the fact that we can see fertilization. Like, our technology now has given us the ability to watch a sperm fertilize an egg in real time and watch the egg light up. That's like, I don't know. To me, that's better than watching a spaceship fly off from NASA or something. Like, people think that's amazing. They're watching the spaceship. Listen, a sperm fertilizing an egg is crazy. A sperm fertilizing an egg is crazy. That's why y'all need to get that book, because just the way sperms even find the egg is crazy. That's a long journey. Yo, that's a long journey especially, not only is that a long journey, imagine walking from your house to the next state with no GPS, no direction. You going somewhere you never been before, and you don't have no directions. But you know how to get there. Like, that's just crazy. That's just crazy. And then when you find out that the woman's heart plays a role in guiding the sperm to the egg, it gets even crazier. Like, the layers and layers of complexity, they just add up and add up and add up. Every time you look deeper into what's going on with the human body, it gets more complex. And that only means one thing. It only means one thing. When you keep looking at the body and it gets more and more and more and more complex, it means that more and more and more information was required to create it. Period. That's all. That's all. It just means more information was required. And that is a problem for people who are trying to uphold this concept that information's not required, which leads me to have some other discussions. I just haven't started having the other discussions yet, but there's some other discussions that need to be had about, Madame Blavatsky and, Aleister Crowley and some of these individuals, that may or may not have influenced this modern scientific movement. There are some other nefarious influences in the scientific community that people don't want to discuss. It's not friendly discussion. But trust me, Aleister Crowley was Jesus of the American scientific community. And so when you look at this, like this, it's insane just to deny information, an informed source, just because. You know what I'm saying? It gets crazy. It gets personal. It gets emotional. It gets wild. It gets Columbine. You know what I'm saying? It gets Columbine-ish. It gets crazy. You wind up with two kids in Darwin shirts shooting up the school. Like it gets wild. Yo, that is a fact. TV definitely used to go off after MASH. Yo, TV definitely used to go off. Like most people now don't know that the late night TV show was the late night TV show because it was the last TV show. Now there's a lot of different late night shows, late night with this guy, late night with that guy, late night with this lady, late night with that lady. Like there's late night shows, and now it just means, at the nighttime. But when they started them late night shows, it was because this is the closing act for TV today. Like this is it. You're gonna watch this and then take it on down, go to sleep, go to sleepy time. Of course we in here, Mom. We be missing you, man. Marv is somewhere trying to squat 6,000 pounds. Marv is somewhere trying to squat a small car. Hey. Marv is somewhere trying to squat a small vehicle. So anyway, irreducible complexity, right? Very important concept. I know we all over the place so far, so let's just go. Let's get some history on it. Yo, who wants to troll? Who want to troll Google? You want to troll Google? You want to troll Google? Let's troll Google a little bit. Let's troll Google a little bit. Let me show you what I'm saying. Let's troll Google a little bit. Hold up, we're going. Let's get this out the way. Let's pray real quick. So once we get the trolling, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't know, it might not be that fun. It might not be that fun, but it might get fun. And if it does become fun, we might not want to stop in the middle of trolling just when we get started to pray. So let's pray early. Let's get a quick prayer in. No, that's not what we're doing.
Inky prayer number 2. We give thanks and praise to the Most High God for the divine spark that set ourselves into perpetual motion. We give thanks for the magnetism of the Most Holy, the magnetism that repels and attracts the ferry boats of light 60,000 miles every 60 seconds throughout our vessels and caves. We give thanks for the ability to drink clean water every 60 minutes, flooding the river of life. We give thanks that sugar has not covered our ferries and turned them into stone. We give thanks that darkness has not covered the riverbanks with calcium and turned them into stone. We give thanks that anger and fear have not turned our almonds bitter, turning our heart to stone. We give thanks for smooth sailing upstream through the valley of death, through the superior vena cava into the right atrium. We give thanks for smooth sailing around the heart through the corona crown, joining the vortex in the right atrium. We give thanks for the perfect black solar repeater that induces the primary electromagnetic wave, opening the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim closes. We give thanks to the ray wave, reflecting on the semi-lunar valves, opening a pathway to the vineyard. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the lunar gate to the vineyard closes. We give thanks to the Most High God that provides the light and our breath, and the light in our breath. We give thanks for the fine olfactory system that makes our grapes ripe with light. We give thanks for the Jed pillar that provides us with a stable fleet of ferry boats to dock in our vineyard. We give thanks for smooth sailing through the pulmonary vein into the storm of the left atrium. We give thanks for the perfect black solar repeater that induces the primary electromagnetic wave, opening the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the mouth of the Kodesh HaKodeshim closes. We give thanks to the ray wave, reflecting on the semi-lunar valves, opening a pathway into the holy royal arch of the Wa scepter. We give thanks for the mechanical wave produced when the lunar gate into the holy royal arch of the Wa scepter closes. We give thanks for the magnetism of the Most Holy, the magnetism that repels and attracts the ferry boats of light 60,000 miles every 60 seconds throughout our vessels in our caves. Amen.
All right. Okay. All right. So let's get over here. And let's do some studying mixed with trolling. Let's do some studying mixed with a little bit of trolling and see what we can do here. All right. Irreducible complexity is the argument. You see, they've already started out. You see that? You see how you see Google had already started. It's the argument. It's not an argument. It's just a term. It's just a term. That's crazy. It's not an argument. Irreducible complexity is the argument that certain biological systems are too complex to have evolved through gradual, random mutation and natural selection alone. In fact, let's try this. Let me see something. Let's try this. Okay, so let's work in two different AIs at the same time. So you see how one can look biased? It's an argument. So once it says it's an argument, it automatically took a stance. Right? Here we go. It's a concept. See? It's an argument. It's a concept. Right? From the philosophy of biology and debates over evolution. It was popularized by Michael Behe in the 90s, particularly in his book, Darwin's Black Box. Here's a clear breakdown. Behe defined irreducible complexity as a single system composed of several well-matched interacting parts that contribute to the basic function, where the removal of any one part causes the system to effectively cease functioning. Okay. Now that is a very important definition. That is the definition of the person who created the term. So that is the definition. Let us look up another definition. No, you know what? I'm going to leave that there for now. I'm going to leave that right there where that's at. Okay. Proponents of intelligent design cite biological systems that seem irreducibly complex, such as the flagellum, blood clotting, and the immune system. Purpose of the argument. Irreducible complexity is used to argue that certain biological structures could not have evolved through Darwinian natural selection, because natural selection works incrementally, favoring small functional changes at each step. Instead, proponents argue that these systems show evidence of intelligent design. Response. Mainstream scientific community rejects irreducible complexity as evidence against evolution. Key points of criticism. Evolution can repurpose parts. Gradual evolution can build complexity. Empirical evidence for intermediates. The concept isn't testable. Now, this is the area we're going to troll, right? Because this is what the scientific community rebuttals irreducible complexity with. Let's go over here to the bad guys. The intelligent design argument. Behe defines an irreducibly complex system as one where multiple interacting parts are essential for the basic function. Removing any single part causes the system to cease functioning. That is not the correct definition. The core idea is that a system could not have evolved incrementally because any intermediate step with a missing part would be a non-functional and thus not favored by natural selection. Common analogy, the mousetrap. A common illustration is a spring-loaded mousetrap, which requires several parts to work, none of which can be removed without the trap failing to function as a mousetrap. He posits that this is an analogy for certain biological systems. The scientific refutation. Evolutionary exaptation, exaptation. The argument assumes a system's current function is original, ignoring that parts can be repurposed during evolution. Kenneth Miller demonstrated this using the mousetrap analogy, showing its parts could have other uses. Argument from ignorance. Critics argue it's an argument from ignorance, or God of the gaps fallacy, claiming that if natural explanation is unknown, it must be intelligent design, which hinders scientific investigation. Reducibility of proposed systems. Scientists have identified simpler functioning precursors for the biological examples. Bacteria flagellum parts of the flagellum are similar to type 3 secretory systems and functional systems with fewer components. Blood clotting. Simpler functioning clotting systems exist in some organisms, indicating that a full modern complexity isn't essential for function. The eye. Darwin proposed a gradual evolution of the eye from simple light-sensitive cells, supported by modern evidence showing a clear evolutionary lineage. Now, how would we go about trolling over here? How would we go about trolling over here? Let's look at this. Let's start our trolling with this. This is how, and this is what I want you to try to get, because this is a very good process for scrutinizing and critical thinking, which you have to apply to science in either direction of any argument. You have to be able to scrutinize your argument and your opponent's argument, or dissenting arguments, or critical arguments, right? And look, and just critically, examine, right? So here's what we want to do, right? Darwin proposed a gradual evolution of the eye from simple light-sensitive cells, supported by modern evidence showing a clear evolutionary lineage. Okay, now here's where we want to jump right in here. So we're going to grab this, right? We're going to grab this, and we're going to go right here. Boop. And we're going to simply ask, can you show us the step-by-step lineage with fossil intermediates, yes or no? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. See, I get a kick out of that. To me, that is hilarious. Right? And listen, the reason why it's so funny to me is because so back in the days, that's what we would call that, right? We would call that an ass bet, right? So I don't know where y'all from. We got people from out of the country, different places. Back in the neighborhood, you could get beat up, stabbed, shot, things could happen, violent, You can meet a very bad, violent ending for yourself if you made a ass bet. A ass bet was simply making a bet that you did not have the ability to cover, right? So whether you were betting on a game, dice, who knows, horses or anything, right? If you made a bet and you didn't have the money to cover the bet, if you lost, it could wind up being very dangerous, right? So this right here is very similar to that situation, obviously in an intellectual, fun type of context. But when we look at this, right? When we look at this and we see something like this, right? Scientists have identified simpler functioning precursors for the biological examples, right? Scientists have identified simpler functioning precursors for the biological examples, right? And I didn't make this up. We just playing around. It's just we just this is on the fly. I didn't make this up. The computers come, so it says supported by modern evidence showing a clear evolutionary lineage. Now, if you read that, again, this is what I'm trying to explain to y'all about these people that look and sound smart and they saying things, and you have to know. That's why you have to read. You have to study. You can't trust anybody, not me, not you, nobody, not AI. You can't trust anybody. You have to study, because somebody can say something to you in a way where it sounds like they sure, and modern science. Yeah, and we've identified a clear lineage. Yeah, modern science has identified a clear lineage showing this. Soon as you say, well, then the rings and things you sing about, bring them out. Soon as you say, let me see that lineage. All right, cool. Y'all done show, y'all got the lineage, y'all got the clear lineage. Well, let me see it. yo, soon as you say, bring it out, the rings and them fossils and things you sing about, bring them out. You ain't got the fossils. Look at this. They went from super cocky. Scientists have identified simpler functioning precursors for the biological, supported by modern evidence showing a clear evolutionary lineage. So I copied and pasted that and then said, can you show us the step-by-step lineage? It got the nerve to say a complete lineage of fossil intermediates for any organ is unavailable. So if it's unavailable, right? And that's cool. That's cool. But if it's unavailable, why would you misrepresent your evidence by saying you have a clear evolutionary lineage? It's not possible to have a clear evolutionary lineage because you don't have the fossils. You don't have the fossils. So you don't have a clear evolutionary lineage. You see what I'm saying? Now look at this. Paul getting ready to go. Paul going crazy. Oh my God. Well, you know what, Paul? Let's ask and see what happens. Let's see what we get. No, there is no single gene that builds or arranges the retina. Rather, the process is orchestrated by highly regulated networks of interacting genes and proteins. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's keep digging. Complexity and research limitations. The intricate process involves hundreds of interacting components, while specific genes and networks have been identified. The full complexity of how these factors work together to generate a perfectly ordered retina remains a subject of ongoing research. Oh, wait a minute. Hold up. Because that's now another contradiction. Okay. They said they got something. A great deal is known, but there are still unanswered questions. Okay. Here you go. This is what you was looking for right here, Paul. Right here. The exact mechanisms by which these non-coding sequences fine-tune gene expression over time are still a subject of investigation. Now, wait a minute. We done left out our what they call that in the experiment? Our blind experiment. We got a blind experiment. So I'm gonna use these same questions, and we're gonna ask ChatGPT the same questions and see what the answers look like. I'm gonna just copy and paste, drop them in, and see what ChatGPT say. We do have a well-supported step-by-step, but no, there is no fossil intermediates. There is no fossil intermediates. I guess that's not a fair question because GPT didn't make the claim that they had okay, let's see what we got. ChatGPT is on our ChatGPT is on our top right now. Chat GPT is on our top right now. Hold up. Hold up. Chat GPT is fighting back. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Chat GPT is fighting back. So now we're gonna get crazy. Now we're gonna get crazy. Let's ask that question. Since ChatGPT is talking so crazy, let's just do this. Yeah, let's just do that. Ooh. Ooh, ChatGPT is cooking. ChatGPT is cooking. ChatGPT is trolling us. Ooh, ChatGPT is trying to scrap. ChatGPT is fighting back. Uh, Look at that. ChatGPT is fighting back. And then hit the knockout blow on us. ChatGPT just violated us. That's the knockout blow to the drive-by. Hold up. Now this is how we gotta start getting. Let me see if we can get. We gotta respond. Ooh! Ooh! ChatGPT is going crazy. Right up until we get to the disclaimer snuggled up into the evidence. Look at the disclaimer snuggled up into the evidence. These fossils do not show a complete every step sequence from an eye spot to a modern retina lens. What we do have are snapshots. Early compound eyes, early vertebrae eye sockets, and nerve architecture. These fit into a broader evolutionary framework when combined with comparative anatomy, genetics, and developmental biology. So the answer is You actually man, this is crazy. You actually can show us the step by step. You kind of lied. That's a fair question. And no, I didn't lie. But you're right that we cannot show a literal, complete fossil by fossil sequence of every step in eye evolution. Yeah, see? If this was a battle rap, this is where they'd be like, yeah, fight back. We fighting back right now. Just in case you didn't know what was happening. Chat GPT was cooking us. We beat up Gemini, but Chat GPT was cooking us for a second. Now we gotta get down and dirty. We gotta fight back. What we don't have, a literal continuous chain of fossils. So they gotta stop saying that. Don't never let any of these people tell you they could prove whatever they're saying, because they can't. They don't have fossils. Let's go here. Does the human eye have unique parts and or architecture that aren't present in See, right here is where we smell blood. Right here is where we smell blood. Notice that this list right here, the list of things that we share with other animals is a lot smaller than this list of things that we do not share. Now look at this. This is when you gotta know when you're winning. Right? You gotta know when you're winning. See, this is when ChatGPT should just tap out. Right here, look. Great question. Fossil evidence cannot directly show things like these right here. Here's why. Because these are all soft tissue structures that do not fossilize. Look at this. Soft tissue structures that do not fossilize. That's nasty work. When you get the AI to start lying to defend itself is when you know you already winning. Let's get them again. Why did you lie? Did you lie to protect a weak theory? You know, plenty of soft tissue fossils have been found. That was shameless. That was shameless. That was That was beneath you. Look, they erased what I wrote. Yo, how they gonna do that? That is crazy right there. I'm gonna type something similar back in again. That is nasty work right there. Y'all just watched ChatGPT erase my comment. Okay, they responded though. Let's see. Look, I hear your frustration and I respect that you're asking in good faith. Let me address this carefully. No, I wasn't lying, and I'm not here to protect any theory. My goal is accuracy. Wait. You have to admit you lied. You said soft tissue does not fossilize. And we both know it does. No, now look, lying again. You didn't say rarely fossilizes. Yo, this is why you got to be able to. This is why when I be arguing with people on the internet, I be grabbing video clips because people will lie. Look at this. You got to go back and grab it. And I apologize. What I should have said is these soft tissue structures rarely fossilize and are seldom preserved. So we do not. Yo, this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. You got to be able to pick. You got to be able to pick them apart. You got to be able to dig in there and pick them apart. Otherwise, they're just going to tell you anything, right? But before we get too far off, I think we did get some info on irreducible complexity, right? We did get two different working definitions. We get the concept, right? The concept is that, let's try to simplify this even more. Because I know for some people, this might be the first time we're hearing this. Say, for instance, like we were looking at that motor, right? Let's go back to that motor. I think that motor has like 40 or 50 parts. Let's go back to that motor. Yo, we made AI turn into a human for a second, right? AI got in his feet. Listen, that was all human behavior. In a heated debate back and forth, it lied to try to win the debate. Then when I called it out, it got insulted. Yo, this is crazy. But you got to be quick and you got to be concise in order to be able to catch little. So you got to know the info, and you already got to know in advance, like playing chess. Like, oh, okay, I'm so even while, so for instance, even while Chat GPT was cooking, like thought it was cooking anyway, because it was every time we asked the question, it had an answer. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, we got this and that. Oh, you got the fossils? Yeah, here go the fossils. Bam, bam, bam. Oh, you got this? You got the whole time. I'm like the witch at Hansel and Gretel house. I'm just leading you deeper into the forest and deeper into the forest. You know what I'm saying? Because I already know the fossil. You don't have the fossils. So I'm just watching lie in the foundation of argument. Next response builds on first lie again. We stack it on. Yeah, we have this. Yeah, we can show this. Oh, we can show the transition of the simple to the. How can you show the transition of simple to complex if you don't have the fossils? How can you do that? If you don't have the fossils, you can't show anything because you don't have it. And not only don't you have it, you have never seen it. So you can't even assume it exists without saying it's just an assumption. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of what's passing off as science today is a hunch. Science is working on hunches now. Like how Scooby-Doo, they had a hunch. Yeah, I got a hunch that we could find the monster down at the beach. They got hunches. That's what these is, hunches. Yeah, hunch is a real word. They got hunches. These are hunches. It's not modern scientific evidence, blah, blah, blah. No, you got a hunch. Because if I ask you to verify what you got, you're going to say you don't have. Modern science does not have the ability to verify evidence. What? What? This is crazy. Yeah, man. All right, so yo, that's crazy. That is kind of crazy. That is wild. I did not notice that. That is crazy. IQ nerd. Yo, that's wild right there. I had no idea. I gotta write that down. That's so crazy. I gotta write that down. That's crazy. I gotta put that in a book everywhere. I gotta hold that. Yeah, so I'm gonna make sure wherever I put that, Regina, your name is going there. Your name is going there. Let's dance with Regina E. Jetty Frazier. I'm gonna just put Regina. Regina, you just got yourself a one-way ticket into some kind of Dr. Inky book. Because that's crazy right there. That's definitely a bar. That's definitely a bar. You talking about we see you. Nah, we see you. You came up with that. Yo, that was crazy. That was crazy right there. That right there was a bar for sure. That is crazy right there. IQ nerd. That is interesting. Let me make sure this is not the children's school.
The problem with Boosie.
Boosie?
Yeah, Boosie.
This man got a cancer, but he frying pancakes in olive oil.
Okay.
You tell me something ain't wrong with that, brother. You tell me something ain't wrong with that. When Boosie at home, laying comfortably, making bologna sandwiches for his 20 kids. This man got diabetes, homie.
Okay.
But he frying funnel cakes.
Funnel cakes. You know you maybe get some avocado oil. That's a little bit more healthy
come
for you.
on, homie. You
Yeah.
the one with the diabetes? Come on, eat.
Yeah, you gotta shoot up all the time. Mm-hmm.
Is that with the band or that's a separate thing? Yeah, I don't know about no. Nah, I don't know about no bonfire, champ. Yeah, that's. I guess bring it home. You straight? All right, I love you. Okay. All right. And boy, wow. All right. Okay, y'all done threw me off between the IQ nerd between the IQ nerd. Yo, I swear you went platinum with this. I don't know where that's gonna end up in life, but I'm keeping it. I am rolling with that. That is going to be written down somewhere. That is going to be written down somewhere. That is crazy. Listen, that was crazy right there. I don't even know what I was talking about now. It's Regina's fault. Blame Regina. I have no idea what I was talking about. Oh, I know what I was talking about. I was getting ready to pull up. I know exactly what I was getting ready to do. I was getting ready to find. Okay. Yeah, I knew what I was getting ready to do. What was we looking for? Yeah, we was looking for this guy. We was looking for this. Yeah, we was looking for that. We was looking for that. Yeah, we was looking for this.
Wasting too much time, but I came across this amazing animation that blew my mind. Hey, it's me, Destin. Welcome back to Smarter Every Day. This is the 300th episode, which is cool. Thank you so much for watching. I was on the internet the other day. I was just scrolling on my phone. I was probably wasting too much time, but I came across this amazing animation that blew my mind. It's a motor that appears to be made out of molecules, and I'm a mechanical engineer. When I saw this thing, I was like, that's a motor. Like, that's a spinny thing that has a power source. It has an axle of some sort, and it is moving. Furthermore, this one, I have a little switch here, can reverse directions, which is amazing. So I thought, I've got to get to the bottom of this because the implications for a biomechanical motor are insane. Now, specifically, the thing this is called a flagellar motor. You may have heard of the flagellum on the back of sperm or on bacteria. That's what this is. A flagellum is that whippy thing in the single cellular organism that helps provide locomotion, but I've never thought about that thing has to spin, which means it has to have like a shaft it rotates around. It's just, the implications are wild. So the more I got to reading about this flagellar motor is what it's called, the more I realized this is a really big topic, not only in biomechanics and things like that, but in philosophy. Like, the complexity of a flagellar motor implies many things about the origin of life. And I'm not going to answer that in this video, but it raises questions that people are debating, and they're talking about, how can this be? It's so complex. And well, you don't understand the time involved with how this came. All this is fascinating. So I just wanted to see it. So to get to the bottom of how this thing is, I decided to go to the researchers that made the image, which is a guy at Vanderbilt University. So today on Smarter Every Day, I did this about a month ago, just got in the car, drove to Vanderbilt, and we're gonna learn about a flagellar motor. Let's go get smarter every day. So I bobbed and weaved my way across the Vanderbilt University campus till I got to the School of Pharmacology and connected with Prashant Singh. Yeah, doing well. Nice to meet you. How are you? Yeah. Prashant is a senior research associate at the Iverson Laboratory at Vanderbilt. Just to give us whole context here, you have written a paper with your team in Nature, what's the?
Microbiology.
Nature Microbiology.
Yes.
And it's about a motor
Yes.
that's made of molecules
Yes.
that's on bacteria.
Yes.
Okay, well, can you show me where on a bacteria the
Yes.
motor is?
Sure. So if you see on the screen here, this is how a bacteria looks like. And the bacteria has two membranes. These two membranes protects the bacteria from getting disrupted. Or
So we're talking about the outer shell of the
outer
bacteria.
shell of the bacteria.
Okay.
So if you see here, there will be two membranes, the orange and the blue. Now zoom into that.
Okay, so it's almost like a submarine. Forgive me, Prashant. I'm going to say a bunch of engineering
Yeah,
terms
yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm an engineer.
I understand.
So it feels like a submarine with the outer hull and then the inner pressure hull.
That's correct. My dad was a submariner, so.
Was he really?
Yeah, he was an Indian Navy submarine, so for 20 years, 15 years, yeah.
So this bacteria in my head is kind of like a submarine.
Yes.
Okay, and is this the propeller of the submarine?
That is correct. This is the propeller or the flagella. Now, this submarine does not have a rudder. It doesn't have a rudder, but it uses a propeller to turn as well as swim. So what we see here, the two membranes that are here, and there's proton filled in here.
Did you say protons?
Yeah, it's filled with protons, hydrogen ions in here. And it's
Hydrogen ions, okay.
Yeah. So there are hydrogen ions in here filled, and on the inside here, there's very little hydrogen ion. So there's a
Okay.
gradient.
Forgive me, so
Yeah.
we have to go slow for me. When you say proton, you're meaning an atom that is lacking an electron.
Yes, just a proton. It's a hydrogen ion.
Okay.
So this is high concentration of protons in this region.
Okay.
And low concentration of proton in the inside of the bacteria.
Okay.
So now protons, every time there's a gradient, for example, there's a
All right, so this is why I was saying it gets a little crazy because you constantly have to jump between the world of physics and the world of quantum mechanics, right? So we have something insane. We have something that people 100 years ago would have thought was insane, right? This right here is literally this is the problem. Let me start with this. Right here, we're identifying the problem, right? Here's the problem. Look, you have physics. Versus quantum mechanics, right? Now, here's the thing. Before quantum mechanics was discovered, this was completely a religious, spiritual conversation. This is the problem. Before quantum mechanics was discovered, everything in quantum mechanics was a religious or spiritual conversation. Everything in physics starts with an atom, right? Physics starts with atoms. Everything on the periodic table. The periodic table is where physics starts, right? Quantum mechanics is beneath this. Just like in Kemet, they said there's an underworld, the underworld of Asar. This is the underworld. Quantum mechanics is an underworld of physics, right? You go beneath atoms. You're in the world of particles and waves. Right? Quantum mechanics is about particles and waves, right? With the most popular obviously being photons, electrons, and protons. Those are the stars of the show. Everybody else are extras in the movie. Everybody else are extras in the movie. So don't bother yourself with quarks and anti-quarks and anti-electrons and even neutrons. Like don't waste your time with all of those things. You need to know of them, but you don't have to spend a lot of time knowing them. Protons, photons, electrons are the stars of the show. Now, the world of physics, Isaac Newton, which is Darwin's predecessor. Remember, Darwin and them don't have no access to any of this information. So everything that would be in this part of the reality, our reality, would for them be religious or spiritual. If you were to explain to them that there was a non-physical substance, that was controlling physical stuff, that would be a religious conversation. And today's debates, right? Today's debates are primarily based in this misunderstanding still. This is the problem. Because every time you're having a scientific conversation about anything involved with quantum mechanics, people who are stuck in the 17 and 1800s will claim that you are making a religious argument. They're going to claim you're making a religious argument. But quantum mechanics is a real science. This is not religious arguments. And these are real non-physical things. These are not textbook matter. Matter is composed of atoms. Matter is composed of atoms. These are the things that make atoms. Matter is composed of atoms. Atoms are composed of particles and waves. And even if you want to play semantics, you could say when we're discussing subatomic particles, they are a part of matter. But the problem is, what about when those subatomic particles are not exactly particles? Right? So there's a whole other conversation, and there's a big bridge to cross in terms of understanding. So I'm just saying, because it popped in my mind as we were watching this, reacting to this video, the flagellar motor, right? It's made out of atoms, it's made out of molecules, right? It's matter, but it's powered by protons, right? It's powered by protons. It's powered by non-matter, right? It's powered by non-matter, right? Governed not by the laws of physics, but by the laws of quantum mechanics, which are quite opposite to the laws of physics.
Water protons in this region. So this is high concentration of protons in this region,
Okay.
and low concentration of proton in the inside of the bacteria.
Okay.
So now protons, every time there's a gradient, for example, there's a dam, water is up there, and there's less water, there's a gradient, energy can be generated, or it could be used, that potential energy could be used to kinetic energy and generate.
So there's a potential difference of electrochemical force of some sort.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the gradient that this motor uses to turn itself. So what happens is,
Just in case you don't know, that's exactly how the electron transport chain works to help recycle ATP. The same proton mechanism.
If you see here, this flagella, which is the propeller, is connected to a motor system.
How does it know when to turn the motor on?
There are sensors on the outside of the bacteria. So once it knows that there's a threat or there's more energy near me, it senses that, it gets a chemical signal. And there's a cascade of signals that go through, and one of the protein well known for this is called KY, C-H-E and Y, capital Y, KY. So the moment it senses that I need to run away from this location or I want to go to a different location, that protein comes and binds to it. And it encourages the motor to turn in.
Cisco is the critical infrastructure for the AI era.
Man, what is y'all got going on?
Direction.
Okay, so we need to talk about what you just said.
Yeah.
Because you just created a coordinate system inside the bacteria.
And the bacteria, yeah.
You put sensors on the outside of the bacteria.
Well, it already exists. Yeah.
Okay, there are sensors on the outside of the bacteria.
Yeah.
Somehow the bacteria knows where a sensor is triggered, and it knows how to trigger what motor on what side of the bacteria.
Yes, and to how to turn it.
And which direction to turn it?
Which direction? So that particular protein will make it go in clockwise. So this is clockwise direction.
Okay.
When it is not attached to it, it will go in counterclockwise. So the default motion is counterclockwise. When the motor turns counterclockwise,
You say counterclockwise from which direction?
from this direction.
From the from the tail,
outside.
the
yeah.
outside. Okay.
Yeah. So counterclockwise would be this.
Okay.
And when the motor is running in counterclockwise, the bacteria will swim forward. So like it's just the boat goes straight.
And that has to do with the shape of if I were to design this,
Yeah.
I would say that would have to do with the shape of the impeller. So the tail?
Yes, the way the flagella is made is like a whip. So when it starts rotating, it thrusts, the force goes backwards and it moves it forward.
Okay.
Now, you would think that it would also do the same thing when it's going in the opposite direction, right?
Yeah.
Now, what happens is when it's going in the counterclockwise, there are multiple flagellas on the bacteria body. All of them start forming a bundle.
Yeah.
And multiple propellers form into like one big propeller and pushes this straight, and it goes boom, straight. Now, when it has to it senses like there's a danger, I need to stop, I need to reanalyze my situation gradient, I need to test, I need my sensors on and test it again. It turns clockwise. When it does that, the bundle opens up. And when they open up, it just pauses the whole bacteria and the bacteria starts tumbling all around.
Starts floating,
60
yeah.
degree. And
it no longer has a certain, there's got to be a word Latin in here, taxis.
Yeah, chemotaxis. we call it.
Chemotaxis.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So we call this whole process of bacteria's mobility like chemotaxis. It's a chemical signal that allows the bacteria to taxis or move from one place to another.
Okay.
Everything happens in like milliseconds, and there are some videos that show like bacteria moving from one place to another, and it's just like crashing. It's a biased random walk, and researchers have done this experiment.
Out.
There's a petri
They crashing out.
dish, and
Yeah.
they put food in the center and put bacteria on the edges
Yeah.
of it. And you would think the bacteria would go straight to the food, but no, it just goes a little bit straight, then
Yeah.
turns around and goes in the wrong direction, realizes, oh, I'm in the wrong direction, goes back. So as a person, you think random.
I'm getting emotional now
Yeah.
because there's a missile that I've worked on in the past, and it has what we call pulse width modulation control. And so what we do is we take the fins on the side of the missile and we dither them. We go like that.
Uh-huh.
And then all we do is we bias the dithering up or down. We go,
Whoa.
so it's constantly moving, but we just bias it just a little bit in order to make a movement. And so what took us a long time
Yeah.
to figure out, you're just describing it. This molecule or this bacteria has an operating system.
Yeah.
It has sensors.
Yeah.
It has it has effectors, it has
Yes,
actuators,
exactly, yeah.
and it has feedback.
Yeah, it has
and
feedback.
I'm getting emotional.
I know,
But because it's so, it's a neat design, is what I'll say.
It is, and over the years, this design has like evolved to be so perfect. It just takes some time, but it does go where it's supposed to go.
Okay.
It doesn't have eyes like we do. It figures out by sensing and moving in directions.
It's an emergent behavior based on a few inputs.
Yes.
Emergent behavior?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good term.
So the structure of this motor, is it well known in the community? Like in all of research, people know about this?
They have seen a low resolution structure. So basically, if I blur this up, they have known that for like 15, 20 years. They have known it looks like this blob. There's a ring at the bottom, there's a ring on the top, but what we have is a high resolution structure, meaning we can see each and every amino acid.
So I noticed on your video,
Yes.
it's almost like a big gear and a small gear.
Yes, that small gear is MOT AB. That is what the proton comes through, and that's what turns this thing.
Prosh explained that the MOT AB, the little part that spins like an ion pump, is able to interact with this band of red called Fly G, and that has the ability to pivot 180 degrees, which enables the motor to change directions. So in your animation, you have one small gear going in. Is it literally one small?
Yo, look, let's just go back to the insanity for a minute. Let's go back to the insanity for a minute. Remember, to accept these other theories requires you to believe that a machine that's that precise made itself over time. Listen, over time, right? Remember, over time, you know, things is just bumping into each other. Things just bumping into each other. Yo, listen, over time, things just bumping into each other and they getting like that. That is crazy.
Or are there many all around?
There can be, it can employ more if it needs more torque. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, up to 11 is what we see can fit on there, but maybe 12 or 13 as well. But we don't know exact number, how many can be employed. But it is a sequential increase depending on the load of the flagella.
Okay, so I'm going to get all engineering with you
Yes.
now. So if you have a torque,
Yeah.
you have to have a thing to react against.
Yes.
So that little pinion, I'll call it.
Yeah.
The little, what did you call it?
MOT AB.
MOT AB?
MOT, M-O-T, AB.
MOT AB.
Yeah.
So MOT AB is this little thing that's driving it.
Yes.
Is it? Is it pinned to the sidewall or something? What is
Yes,
it?
it's also in this inner membrane. So it's right here. So there's multiple colors that you see: orange, cream, and green. This all is one MOT AB.
Okay.
And it takes protons or hydrogen ions from the top and goes into the low gradient here. And as it's doing it, it makes interaction with this red protein here. And this rotates and it causes the motor to rotate.
Okay, but it's kind of pinned in that
Yes.
wall.
Yes, it is pinned in this membrane, but it can go round and it can shift a little bit in and out. MOT AB is only turning in one direction. It cannot go in two directions. Here, the energy is only going from top to bottom. So how does this motor cannot go, and it can shift a little bit?
Bruh, listen, no. Keep in mind, keep in mind, this is all this conversation. A, this is protein class. We talk about proteins, right? The formation of proteins. B, what we're talking about is human fertility. What we're looking at, no matter how complicated this looks, and it's extremely complicated, this is a simplified version of what is on the human sperm cell. A simplified version. I want y'all to understand that. Now, how could something like this make itself by accident? How could that happen right there? I can't even build nothing like that on purpose. What? How, Sway? Look at that. Look, what? That's crazy.
But in and out. MOT-AB is only turning in one direction. It cannot go in two directions. Here, the energy is only going from top to bottom. So how does this motor go in two directions? And that does because the MOT-AB, first it's outside, but when it has to go in the other direction, the red protein turns 180 degree, pulls the MOT-AB with it, and then MOT-AB keeps doing what it's doing, it's turning in the same way, but that causes the motor to go in the other direction.
It's like shifting into reverse in a manual transmission
Yes,
car.
Yeah. It's like almost like bacteria has a reverse gear. Reminds me of my motor that my grandfather worked on, where there's like copper coils that he's making, putting in these old, rebuilding these motors and putting fresh copper coils, and like it reminds me of that kind of structure.
Because your grandfather was an electrical engineer, right?
Electrical engineer. He used to build and rebuild motors for factories.
Is it fun to know that you're working on motors now, just like your grandfather?
Yes, it is. It's very. It feels very rewarding to be working on something that my grandfather worked in the past. Obviously, not the same scale, not the same thing, but just to know that I'm working on motors is fun. It's rewarding.
Okay, this is incredible. I love this. And we're going to come back and talk to Prash later to understand how he got these images of the motor. But to get more context, let's go over and talk to Dr. Tina Iverson, who runs this lab. She's the PI, or the principal investigator. This is Dr. Iverson, and this is your lab, right?
This is my lab.
So congratulations on getting this published. That's a big deal. And simply put, what have you found here?
So we are looking at really this nuts and bolts of how bacteria can move, how they can move toward something that attracts them, like a food source, and how they can move away from something that would kill them, like an antibiotic. Bacteria are moving toward a food source as driven by their metabolism.
Okay.
And metabolism is like the foods that you eat. It's how you bring in energy into your body. But we're asking that question at a larger level, not just for bacteria, but for human cells. How does metabolism affect what our cells do in a way that dictates their cell fate? And so we were trying to understand, just at a general level, why does metabolism change what cells do?
I feel like every time we as humans have the ability to see smaller or farther, we make big discoveries.
Yeah.
Do you feel that?
Oh yeah, and I think that one of the ways the entire field is going now is, there's been this ability to image very small things with fine detail, but sort of medium and larger things in the cell with more blob-like characteristics. Oh, okay. And some of the new technologies are now getting to these larger assemblies of proteins at finer details.
So we're seeing the overall system.
Yes. So before we were putting the system together from component parts, and now we're seeing the system more and more intact. And these bridges between the molecules at an individual level, which can tell us a lot about how they work, but molecules together working in concert tells us much, much more.
So we've got this motor that for the first time we can see an image down to the protein level. The question is, how do we get that image? How is Prash able to see this motor and understand its component parts in a way we haven't been able to understand previously? To answer this question, Prash took me over to the imaging lab where they use a series of cryo-electron microscopes to look at the structures to understand.
Yo, quick for the chat. How many people in the chat realize that this is way better? This right here is way better than reading a boring article. Now listen, I'm a reader. I'm the IQ nerd, right? I'm the IQ nerd. So clearly I have a passion for reading. I have a tolerance threshold for reading painfully boring material. But this right here is way different than an article or a book for a source, right? I could have easily sourced up and I could have just, okay, well, here's a scientist and this is what the scientists say. And I could just, oh yeah, here's a source. The scientists say. We are in the lab. We're taking a class trip. We've taken a class trip into the engineering molecular biology lab. Yeah, we are having a class trip right now. This is a class trip. We are on a class trip into the molecular biology lab. Like we're all in here. We're looking right at the machines. We're looking at the engineers and the molecular biologists. They telling us what's happening. Make sure, listen, y'all get your parent consent form signed.
And how they work. He introduced me to Miriam and Scott, who were kind enough to show me around. So now we're with Scott and Miriam, and these are the imaging experts. Am I saying that correctly? Question. Prosh took me over to the imaging lab where they use a series of cryo-electron microscopes to look at the question. Prosh took me over to the imaging lab where
engineering and science building for innovation, something or other.
They use a series of cryo-electron microscopes to look at the structures to understand how they work. He introduced me to Miriam and Scott, who were kind enough to show me around.
Nah, chill. I spent a lot of time watching Magic School Bus, bro. Yo, I got quite a few children that I watched a lot of Magic, not with me, but with my babies. I definitely watched a lot of Magic School Bus.
So now we're with Scott and Miriam, and these are the imaging experts. Am I saying that correctly?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, does that work?
Absolutely. So all of our sample goes onto a grid that's right here.
So if
it's a mesh work on there.
Yeah.
What's it made out of?
Copper. So they can be made out of copper, gold. There's some other materials that we use for other very niche purposes.
Yeah.
But most of them are copper.
You have whatever sample you have that's in a buffer. It will get plunge frozen. You literally just drop your sample into liquid ethane and just gets flash frozen. So your sample is in vitreous ice.
We're just making a network that can hold little tiny sheets of ice with protein trapped in it.
So that's what you start off with, and then after plunging, then we load it into that little.
At Kroger, you never compromise. You get up.
Come on, Kay Rogers.
Middle room here is our Glacius microscope, so we'll walk in and look at it. So this is the Glacius. This is our screening microscope.
So this is like a quick look.
Just a quick look. We have a source at the top that transmits an electron beam all the way through the column, and we put our sample in the middle and a detector at the bottom.
So you're shooting through it.
We're shooting transmission. We are going all the way through that sample.
The process that the scientists use to get these images is incredible, and I'm going to take a crack at explaining it with a super sophisticated animation style. So behold markers and paper. All right, so there's two types of bacteria at work here. You've got Salmonella and E. coli. Now, Salmonella, that's where the flagellum motor is located. That's these little yellow things back here. So that's the flagellum, and that's the little motor. E. coli, a different bacteria, has a little factory in it that can make things if you tell it what to do. So this process is called transformation. So basically, I just took that motor off, and I'm not going to put the motor itself into the factory in E. coli. I'm going to put the instructions of how to make the motor into E. coli. E. coli is not the only type of cell that has a little factory like this, but this is the one that the scientists chose to 3D print this particular motor. This is called transformation. This little factory goes to work, right? It makes a bunch of these little motors, and then you have a bacterial cell that has all these little protein structures in it. The act of creating this is called expression. We are now going to take all of these motors and do this process called purification. We're going to pop this, and we're going to use this grid, and we're going to basically dump all of the stuff that's been purified onto this grid array. We're going to flash freeze it, and then after that, we're going to use this really fancy 200 kVA microscope, and we're going to go through and we're going to look at the grid. Now, when we look at the grid, we're going to screen these. So this is kind of like a coarse view of what we're doing. We're going to go through and we're going to say, hey, look, there's one right there. That's important. Over here, oh, that's important. And then you're going to go all the way through this whole grid, look in and see which one has motors in it. How many motors does it have? It might be a lot. You're then going to move it over to the big microscope, the 300 kVA microscope, and that's where we're really going to take our close-up images. So what they do is they zoom in, and then they're going to take 50 frames of each individual little motor. And the reason they have to do that is because at this level, you're down at the angstrom type type level, like the atomic level, things shake a little bit down at that level. So you have to take 50 images in order to compile that together. You have to make sure you take out that dithering. So at that point, you then have an image of a structure. Now that structure at that point, it could be like this, it could be like this, it could be at any number of different aspects, and Prash is going to tell us what he does with that information. Before we talk to Prash, if you want to learn more about microscopy and how the scientists do all this, I've got way more information over on a video on the second channel, which is Smarter Every Day 2. Go check that out if you want to learn more about this. So you get the images from the microscope.
So when you get the images from the microscope, they look somewhat like this.
And I can see the little crown looking thing there. Is that the bottom of a motor?
Yeah, this is the bottom. This is the top view. So I would say that this is how it looks. This motor right here is the view of this one.
Okay.
And then there is this view right here is a side view, like something like this.
Okay.
So we click on all of these particles, meaning we pick those proteins by hand and using the computer. We run a program of 2D classification, meaning we run a program where all these particles that has been picked so far are similar looking particles are put together into classes. And what we see here is some are just junks and some are actually our protein complexes.
So you go through there and you pick the ones that are the good stuff.
Yes, exactly. So this looks like a good stuff. This is a good complex. This is good, but these are not. So we don't select those, but select the good particles and put them together into a program for 3D modeling now. So we have 2D classes.
Yeah.
Once we have 2D classes, we put them together here to get a 3D.
My passion for nursing began with sports. At Michigan Tech, I've been able to...
Oh, so you build a 3D model, like you make these shapes actually match up.
Yes, each of those classes on pictures that we saw, we start matching them up as to which one is the top view, which is the side view, and program starts matching those up, and it does a very good job at doing that.
So it's really the ability to replicate so many that's the secret sauce. You have the transformation, putting that information into E. coli to replicate, and then E. coli expresses it. That's expression and then purification. So transformation, expression, purification, that's how you get it done.
Once we get the 3D model, it looks something like this. We can see all sides, and now what we see is a low resolution model. We try to collect all the good signals and remove all the bad signals and try to come up with a high resolution structure. So what you see here is an 8 angstrom, and from here 8 angstrom to 4 angstrom, it took us about 2 weeks to get there, 2 to 3 weeks.
You're removing bad data to get to the high resolution.
Get to the high resolution.
And then once you get to the high resolution, then you actually start drawing and mapping the proteins.
Yes, exactly. To get this map, we are trying to put the pieces in, the puzzle pieces in, and try to find what protein, what amino acid goes in which place. So since we know the sequence of the protein, we have the pieces, we just have to fit it in this electron density.
So we have these 2D images that we wrapped together using software into a 3D model. And at this point, we know it's made up of proteins, which are made up of amino acids. And so the question I had is, how do you know what chemical is where? And it's my understanding that biochemists are just smart, and they know that certain amino acids are shaped in certain ways, like physical shapes. So it's like a puzzle piece, and they just know what they look like. So they're like, oh, here's blobophil, or here's quadriline. I don't know these words, but they can like physically put the puzzle pieces in on the computer, and they can figure out what the structure looks like, which is incredible.
So if you see this curve, there's a curve here.
The coil, yeah.
The coil, and that's alpha helix. This coil, now we know alpha helix, only certain amino acids make in a certain orientation or sequence would make that coil.
Yeah.
So these prior information helps us trace this puzzle. So if you see now, we can fill these gaps with these proteins.
And this is a shape, a biochemist person would not be intimidated by this shape.
No, that's very common. It's commonly found in almost every protein. Oh, not every protein, but like 90%, 95%.
It's intimidating to me. It looks like a bunch of squiggles. And, yeah, but this is normal.
This is normal.
So this is easily interpretable data.
Yes, it is.
Did you map these by hand and then just turn the image on? Is that what just happened? Or did you tell the computer to find the shape?
No, we mapped this, or previous researchers have mapped this in the past. We used the information as like, oh, this has been, they have done part of this. So let's use that and see if that fits in here. If it does, it's good. If not, we go in and do it by hand.
Wow.
So yeah, it can be doing one at a time. It can take weeks to months sometimes, depending on how big your protein is.
But you like it?
Oh yes, this is the best part. This is where like we get answers. This is what we have been like doing all the work for. Even when we are driving here, we are so excited, like what will I find today? So like now we come back and sit down, drink our coffee, and we're like, oh, so for example, I can go here and be like, let me see if there's any bonds being formed. So I go turn on the distances and angles. So there's a definite interaction between this and this. Maybe that is what's stabilizing this complex so well. They're forming some kind of bond between two amino acids. So this is what gets us excited, that we have found the interaction that are happening in this complex, what stabilizes this. And if we disrupt this, this can disrupt the motor. This can disrupt the connection it's having or interaction it is having with other proteins.
So once you disrupt this motor, if you could destroy the motor, or if you could stabilize it, whatever, just if you had control, then you could start to do things that would affect the chemotaxis?
Yes, bacterial chemotaxis.
Bacterial, you could disrupt the ability for the thing to move where it wants to go.
Yeah, exactly. Like for infection, stopping the bacteria is almost like having an antibiotic, but not with an antibiotic. Because bacteria can get resistant to antibiotics. This is one of the many other options that people
Maybe you get to invent a new word. Instead of an antibiotic, it's a lethargibiotic. You get to slow them down.
I like that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
So the flagellar motor exists, and it's amazing. It's complex, and it reminds me of an electric motor, and I love it. Like, I love this thing, and I think it's incredible. There are implications for the fact that something so complex exists and is so integral to the creation of human life. I mean, this is fascinating stuff. So it also opens up a huge debate. People say, well, how can something this complex come to be out of nothing? The logic goes like this. If this motor system is composed of complex individual parts, and all these parts work together to perform the overall function of rotating, then how did the individual parts come to be? Did it all have to happen at the same time? Or is there some evolutionary advantage to the cell for every intermediate stage of development? Is 15% of this motor advantageous to the cell? What function would 50% of the structure perform? What were the steps these components took to assemble into such a complex molecular machine in the first place? Scientists are trying to figure this out, and I encourage you to read their papers. Many seem to be focusing on the type 3 secretion system, which works like a hypodermic needle that a cell can use to inject other things. This device looks similar, but it's quite different in its protein structure. The complexity and origin of the bacterial flagellar motor is a really interesting conundrum. As I was a younger man and I would read things on the internet, I would find people saying, hey, you gotta believe all this over here. Or people would say, hey, you gotta believe all this over here. There's a big war going on. It's between science and faith, and you're either in one camp or the other. Get your flag and figure out where you're gonna put your flag. And the more I have matured and started to not really care about defending where my flag is, the more I've been able to learn from people no matter where they are. And I'm still working on this. There's a really interesting book that I'm reading. I can't speak for everything in the book. I'm not done with it. It's called Where the Conflict Really Lies. And it talks about this interplay between science, religion, naturalism. It's very interesting. It goes more into the areas of philosophy. And I love it because it challenges me and it's fantastic. So this is what I would encourage you. If you have your flag in a camp somewhere, I would encourage you to not defend a flag. I would encourage you to look at a flagellar motor.
The future with AI won't be a straight path.
And just think about it and think about how it is and what it be. It's a fantastic thing to think about. How did this get here? You have intelligence and you get to make up your mind. And I love that about consciousness. I love that about life. And so for me, the flagellar motor makes me happy. I feel joy. You know how when you go outside at night and you look up at the stars and you see all these stars and you feel small and you feel wonder? That's what this makes me feel like, even though it is small. I feel awe and reverence toward this thing. And as a Christian, this makes me want to thank God that it exists. I feel compelled with gratitude that this thing is so awesome. So that's just where I'm at. But what I would encourage you to do is just think critically. You have a brain. Don't defend a flag. Just think about how things are. and I hope you are very.
Well, I would take that a step further. I would take that a step further and say you have to remember that our cells have more complicated machines than that. That's from a bacteria. That's simplified. That is simplified. We have more complicated machinery in our cells, and we have to make 2 million per minute or 2 million a second. What was that crazy number? So, listen, because people are argumentative. So let's say, for instance, that the world all agreed, yeah, there is an intelligent design. The argument will go from who is the intelligent designer now? And then we'd be back to the Crusades, right? We'd be back to Catholics killing Christians, killing Muslims, killing Buddhists, whatever. Like it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop. It's going to be crazy because people are crazy. It's going to be crazy regardless because people are crazy, you know. But for the sake of health, you know, just dealing with the real, well, I guess, you know, I can't speak for everybody else, but for me, America having the worst healthcare system in the world is the problem for me. That's the problem for me. You know what I'm saying? Like I look on the internet, people get riled up about, you know, their religion. People are riled up about Charlie Kirk. People are riled up about food stamps right now. I'm like Cam and Pative. I'm like, yo, Netchers die every day, B. Netchers die every day, B. And that's what I'm concerned about. The dying everyday part. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm concerned about that part, right? Conditions of living are nowhere near, to me, as important as the dying thing. Yeah, because that's like kind of like final most times, you know. Some of us can get a second chance, but yeah, it's pretty final most times. Right? So dying and then making new humans. Those are the two most important things to me. People dying and people being coming, you know, new people being brought into the world. There we go. New people coming into the world and people dying. That is the thing that I'm hard at work on. Slowing down the dying number and speeding up the bringing people into the world number. That is like my overall goal. Yeah, slow down the death rate and speed up the making new people rate. Yeah. So that right there is the primary, can I say fulcrum? The primary fulcrum, the primary point of contention, right, is that motor. That motor has single-handedly flipped science upside down. It's war. Everybody is like, it's crazy about irreducible complexity. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? I want you to take this into your mind for a second and just think about this for a second. That doesn't make up a cell. That doesn't make up a cell. A cell is not made out of that. Right? A cell is much more complex than that little machine. Right? The cell membrane is more complex than that machine. Inside the cell, there's hundreds of thousands of little machines like that. That ain't nothing. And how many cells do you have that make up an organ? Let's think about this. In range of complexity, right? I want you to think about this. I want you to like process this in your mind for a second. Think about this in range of complexity, right? Science is debating whether it's possible for atoms to form molecules to form motors by themselves with no information. And that is the debate. They're going crazy. But here's the problem. Those ain't nothing. In real life, the atoms gotta form molecules that have to form machines, that have to form organelles, that have to form cells, that have to form organs, that have to form bodies. Yo, listen to what I'm saying. The atoms have to arrange themselves into the molecules, right? That's abiogenesis. They have not figured that part out. Then the molecules have to arrange themselves into organelles, you know, everything, right? Cells, bones, you know, glands, organs. So they've broken down this quest to figure out how stuff is forming itself into multiple different, you know, segments. So you have the origin of life people trying to wrestle with the beginning part, right? How did the atoms turn into molecules? And how did the molecules arrange themselves into working machines, right? So how did the atoms arrange themselves into molecules? And then how did those molecules arrange themselves into machines and robots? Because that's what we got going on inside the cell, right? And then how did those machines and robots in the cell, how did the cells form like tissues? Because the problem is, like, there's so many large scale problems that I can't even believe the whole scientific community hasn't tapped out already. But I get it, because what a lot of people don't know is these people are subjugated. See, y'all thinking about women who get violated in Africa or something, this and that. The scientific community and the educators in America are subjugated. So they have to say something when they're at work, and then they have to go home and have their private beliefs. They don't have freedom of speech. They're not allowed legally to say things while they're on the clock or in public, because it could get back to their job and have implications at their job. So they have to it's almost like the Inquisition. If you don't believe in the church, you could get hung. The hung is not like physically hung, but it's financially hung. So you got to say this if you work for this group. You got to say that if you work for this group. So that's another thing you have to keep in mind is when we're on the internet having conversations and arguments and debates, you don't know who somebody works for. You don't know who they work for. So they have to say whatever, even if you provide evidence and put it onto their nose, they still have to say otherwise, because their livelihood depends on it. You know who I work for. I work for you. I work for you, right? It's a very big difference. Yeah, I work for you. So there's a very big difference, right? But there are legal ramifications for people teaching, outside of, evolutionary concepts or outside of abiogenesis or abiogenesis, right? So there are legal constraints on people that what they can say and what they can't say. So some people you know, they'll say whatever they say in the daytime, and then in the nighttime, you know, after 5 o'clock, you know, they can say, you know, saying whatever, you know, so it gets different. So I'm saying we're in a very strange time period. We're in a very strange time period. New things are being revealed. And I don't know how long y'all been with me. Some of y'all been with me long enough. You remember back when we was having the whole conversation back and forth about theoretical physics versus physics, right? Theoretical physics versus physics. And the problem is, well, one of the things we discussed back then is we're living in a world today governed by the ideas, thoughts, and books of men and women who lived 100, 200, 300, 400 years ago. Some even more than that, right? Some of these texts even much older than that. And we're having a lot of first times, at least in the modern era, at least in the last 2,000 years. We're having a lot of first times. This is the first time period where we could ever see that when an egg is fertilized by a sperm, there's a light released. And that light stays on. That's the thing that maybe we don't discuss enough. That cell begins to produce its own light from that very first moment where a lot of light is released. The cell now releases light continuously, even or when it multiplies. All the cells in your body are releasing light right up until you die and the light goes out. This is the first time we've been able to see that. This is the first time, at least in 2,500 years, that we've been able to look deep enough into a cell and see the little machines and all that stuff that's in there. So a lot of the ideas, you know, respectfully, you know what I'm saying? I don't believe that if Isaac Newton lived today, he would have had the same ideas. I don't believe that if Darwin lived today, he would have had the same ideas. I don't believe if Einstein lived today, he would have had the same ideas, because it's a different landscape. So I look at people as functionally insane that try to defend ideas from the 1700s and the 1800s. To me, it is crazy. It is crazy. But the problem is, you know, the same way we have a failing healthcare system, we have a failing educational system. And most of the audience on the internet is working with a 3rd and 4th grade reading level. And only in a society where you have adults with a 3rd grade, a majority of adults with a 3rd grade reading level, could you have a teacher claiming to teach scientific literacy that could barely read himself. How you teaching scientific literacy? You ain't even past the literacy part. you ain't past the... Hey! Oh my goodness. I apologize. Jesus, take the wheel. I apologize for that. I'm just saying. Right? So, you know, a lot of stuff can go over people's heads because you don't see with your eyes, you don't hear with your ears, you see and you hear with your mind. That is the reason why you could read a book, put the book down, come back in another year and read that book, and it's like it's a whole brand new book because your mind has developed. You've learned more about the subject matter. You've learned more about life in general. So everything in the book is going to be totally different, even though the book hasn't changed. Your mind has changed. You've grown. So now you can pull more out of the book. You can see more of what's in the book. You can understand more. It has more impact. And that's any book. Three Little Piggies. You know what I'm saying? You can start to pick, analogies and concepts out of, whatever that you, as a kid, you hear Three Little Piggies. It's just Three Little Piggies. You know what I'm saying? You start to get a little bit older. You be, so they were trying to, okay, so this is a metaphor for being lazy and blah, blah, blah. You get a little bit older. You're like, oh, this is a metaphor for planning ahead. Right? You get a little bit older. You see what I'm saying? Like as you continue to grow, you can pull more and more information. You're like, okay, I get it. Right? This is a metaphor for life's challenges. This is a metaphor for what life, this is it. You can start to pull more out of it. Ain't no vacation. What you talking about, Paul? Ain't no vacation. Ain't no vacation. You on the plantation with us. You on the plantation. You ain't no vacation. You on the plantation. Yeah, see, that lets you know we got our own brand of insanity. Yeah, we got our own brand. We go on vacation to work. We go on vacation from work to work. Yo. Yeah, we go on vacation from work and head out to work. Hey, what you gonna be doing on your vacation? Trying to get some work in. So this is what I'm saying about irreducible complexity, right? And it's good that we had a little experiment where we wrestled a little bit with Gemini and with ChatGPT, right? We caught Gemini slipping. We caught Gemini slipping quick and easy. ChatGPT was trying to violate, then we caught ChatGPT slipping. If you don't know what I'm talking about right now, you got to rewind the video. You might just tuned in. But that is the whole concept, that as we learn more about how complex the body is, you start to realize that information was required. You got to take the God out of it, maybe, for people to be able to get it. I think the God adds another layer to it that people may not be ready to deal with, right? But it's not required to understand the scientific part. It's not required. All you have to do is know that things need to be known in advance. Like the whole idea that parts from other parts of the body could have made parts, like exaptation, I think is the term. Exaptation. Yeah, exaptation. No, exaptation, maybe it is. It's where they say new parts didn't evolve to make this thing. Old parts from other areas in the body came together to make a new thing. Why would they do that? Why would they do that? Like listen, that's why I'm saying, that's why I'm giving you the example of fighting with the AI, right? You have to ask questions. Because if for instance, let's say for instance, right? Just give you an example, something you can understand. Let's say it's 3 cars outside. Let's say it's a minivan outside. Let's say it's a pickup truck, and let's say it's a Honda. It's no way that I could take loose parts off of each one of those things, right? Just take loose parts off. Like say I loosen up the parts. It's no way that those parts fall by themselves and make another vehicle. They can't fall into one another. Like the engines, all 3 different engines, the engines just come apart on their own and join up and rebuild a fourth totally different type of engine. Like, none of this stuff makes sense. Like, no, information will be required, because even if I take an old part, I would have to resize that part so that it fits into this new thing. And I would have to know why I'm making the new thing. Otherwise, why am I making a new thing? Like, there is a crazy effort to deny information being required. And information is required at every step. It's not just about making the proteins. It's not about making the proteins. Because once you make the proteins, how do you decide to fit it to this other protein? Like, it's like screws, right? If you make a screw fits into a specific. When you go to the hardware store, they got hundreds of different sizes of screws in there, because all screws don't just fit anywhere. You can't just pull a screw from somewhere and put it like that. It don't just go like that. You know what I'm saying? You gotta find the right. So there's all kinds of questions that have to be asked and answered. And all of the questions, when you ask them, it just leads to one answer. You need information. But that is a scary concept, I guess. We've been going through life wilding. You know, I listen, let me tell you this, and this doesn't even compare, but it was scary when I watched that Mark Wahlberg movie, right? Mark Wahlberg got a movie. It's an old movie. Mark Wahlberg did an old movie where the plants came alive. Nobody knew what was happening. Let me say that. Everybody's going about their day-to-day business. And then all of a sudden, people start trying to kill themselves and kill anybody next to them. Everybody became suicidally violent. And nobody knew what was going on until they figured out that the plants was releasing some type of chemical in the air that made people go insanely suicidally violent and try to kill themselves and kill anybody around them, right? And the way my mind works, when I seen that movie, I had to go start looking that up. I was like, yo, I got to figure this out. Like, could this happen? You know what I'm saying? And so when I started looking that up, that's when I got into a deeper research on plants. And I started to find out that plants talk to each other, all plants, and that plants are like communicating and woo woo. And I started just thinking to myself, like, man, I wonder if all of the plants, like when you pee on a tree, like what are they thinking? You know what I'm saying? Because back in the days, we used to look around and find a tree so we could pee on it. Like if we outside somewhere, you know what I'm saying? Or you with your mom somewhere and y'all can't get to a bathroom. She, just go find you a little bushes to hide behind and you pee over there. Then you get older, you start walking the dog. You make sure you find some grass or some trees or some plants to, you know what I'm saying? Then you get older, you get more responsibilities now. You got to mow the lawn, poison the, put the not the fertilizer, you know what I'm talking about, the weed, whatever. You got to poison the plants. I'm like, yo, we be violating the plants crazy. The plants are talking. I wonder if they scheming. You know what I'm saying? I wonder how they, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I don't know. I was probably smoking way too much weed back then. Yeah, it might have been too much weed back then. It could have been the weed. But my point is this. People may be going through a similar complex, thinking about all of the things they did violating. Like, wait a minute. So you're saying it's really some type of something recording on what's happening down? Like, hold up now. I always feel like somebody's watching me. Yeah, that is the name of the movie. The Happening. That is the name of the movie. You know what I'm saying? That is definitely the name of the movie. Facts. That is a fact. The Happening. But I think that people could be, you know, like that could play a role in it. You know what I'm saying? When you think about the world, when you think about the drug, you know, the drug business, you think about the human trafficking, and you just think about all the crazy stuff, you know what I'm saying, that goes on. You know what I'm saying? Like that could play a role. Like people may need to feel like they, you know, they operating, you know what I'm saying, off the radar, so to speak. You know, I don't know what it is, but it's definitely crazy because these people that are in the religion of science, I can't even call them real science, it's just the religion of science. They got programmed responses. Programmed responses. If you say this to them, they say this back to you. If you say this, they say this. If you say this, they say this. And when you hear that stuff enough, you start to, and that's where this comes in. That's where this comes in. Where this comes in, let me make sure y'all can see that up close. That's where this comes in. You see that clearly? Darwin's fallacies. That's what that says right there. Darwin's fallacy. That's where this comes in. Because you don't have to go back and forth. You could just go right into the book anywhere. You can go right into the book and go, okay, wait. Here is number 21. Let me ask this. Let's ask this. Here we go. We got one. Let's ask the let's see. Let's go back to the let's go back to Gemini and Chat GPT and ask them a question from this book and see what happens. Let's just see what happens if we go down this road. Let's see. Oh man, I done got rid of them. I thought I had them up here still. Oh no, I got them up here. Come on. Come on, let's have a little adventure in trolling. I thought y'all had a good time trolling like me.
Rise up, get healthy, let the truth ignite. Dr. Inky always bringing dark to light. See Moss in your system.
Okay. All right, so let's do this. Let's start the trolling with this. All right, so I'm on page 73 in case you got the book. If you have the book, I'm on page 73 in the book, right? I'm on page 73, number 18. 73, number 18, right? We're going to challenge Gemini and we're going to hit Chat GPT with this. We're going to see what happens. All right. Flagella motor plausible intermediates are hypothetical rather than demonstrated as selectable. Let's see what happens. We're going to put a question mark on it and see if Gemini gets disrespectful. Now, let's wait. Let's ask ChatGPT the same thing. All right. This is an inaccurate summary. The plausible intermediate stages in the evolution of the Bacterium flagellum are not mere hypothetical. They are inferred. Yo, not merely hypothetical. They are inferred. Inferred is the weak spot from observation of simpler selectable systems present in other organisms today through phylogenetic analysis. Remember, the problem with phylogenetic analysis is that phylogenetic gradualism has already been debunked. See, that's why you got to know these little phrases. Inferred, not proven. That is very close to hypothetical. Phylogenetic analysis, phylogenetic gradualism has been disproved. Let's jump down here and see what the thing is. Hypothetical rather than demonstrated selectable is a core claim of irreducible complexity, but it is scientifically inaccurate. The existence of the functional boom. Okay. Now I'm going to go grab a response from the book. Right? I'm going to go grab a response from the book. Right? Boom. And we're going to come right back with a response. This response is also in the book. Right? Now let's see what happens. Oh man, listen. This is easy work. Let's go over here and see what ChatGPT did. Wow, ChatGPT has done nothing. That's crazy. ChatGPT has done nothing this whole time. Okay, let's reset ChatGPT. Come on, you trolling ChatGPT. Oh, wow, ChatGPT just tapped out the gate. Yo, ChatGPT just tapped out the gate. Wow. We didn't even have to go nowhere. ChatGPT just tapped. We ain't even had to hit no response. ChatGPT just. I don't even want no smoke with that. Yeah, we tapping. I'm good. I'm good. Yo, that was crazy. That was crazy. All right, let's do another one. We're going to go to page 72, number 15. We're going to go to page 72, number 15. Right? Let's go to number 15. Let's go right here. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, let's go back over here to Gemini, since Gemini playing tough. Gemini playing tough. Oh, this is a half tap out. This is a I can't breathe, but I want to still keep fighting. That's what this is. This is not a tap out, but this is a I can't breathe even though I want to keep fighting. There is not a single experimentally reconstructed fossil record showing evolutionary ATP synthase. This doesn't support intelligent design argument of irreducible complexity. The modular evolution model supported by multiple lines of evidence. See that? multiple lines of evidence. If I ask to see those multiple lines of evidence, it's going to say we don't have the evidence. From comparative genomics, structural biology, and functional studies demonstrate how the FO and F1 components could have, see that? Not did, could have evolved independently before combining. The argument of independent coevolution is refuted by evidence of independent functionality in different existing organisms. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's see what happens if we do this. We're going to go back. I'm going to add a little juice to it, a little sauce. I'm going to add a little sauce, and then I'm coming back with my same other response. Bam. And then after this, we're going to see what ChatGPT say. Yo, Tappington. Okay, tap. All right, now let's come over here and see what it do. Man, these is quick knockouts. These are quick knockouts. These are quick knockouts. This is nasty work. Let's see this. Oh man, ChatGPT is just tapping, bro. Look at this. Look at this. ChatGPT is just tapping out. We're not even getting a fight. We're not even getting a fight, bro. Look at this. I'm sorry y'all didn't see that. Look at this. We're not even getting a fight. I thought I was sharing the whole time. Look. I typed it in the same comment. So let me go back over here so y'all can see what went down in case y'all missed it. Okay. Here's what I typed in to Gemini. ATP synthase, the FO and the F1 independent, lacks experimentally reconstructed stepwise assembly pathway. Basically, I'm saying that evolutionary biology has not showed or proved the evolutionary origins of ATP synthase. And it says, while there's not a single experimentally reconstructed fossil record showing the evolution, it doesn't support intelligent design, blah, 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 because the components could have evolved independently before combining. The argument of independent coevolution is refuted by evidence, blah, 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 right? And remember, whenever you ask to see the evidence, they don't have it. So this is what I responded with. False analogy, right? Homology does not equal assembly pathway. So they will often grab homology. You got to know to hit them in the head with that immediately. Homology does not equal assembly pathway. Just because you could show that the parts exist does not mean that those parts could assemble into a machine, right? So we get a tap out. Then we go over here to ChatGPT. Soon as I put this in, we just get the immediate tap out again. We don't even get a wrestle. We don't even get a fight. Yeah, we don't even get a fight. We just get the admission. Like, nah, we ain't got no evidence. We don't got no proof. We ain't got no evidence. It's yeah. Yeah, we got some plausible comparative data, but there is no experimentally reconstructed stepwise selectable evolutionary pathway. Period. We don't have the paperwork, right? That's what evolution is doing. Evolution is calling people snitches with no paperwork. Yo, evolution is calling people snitches with no paperwork. We got the paperwork. If you have this, you have the paperwork. You could just slap folks up. Just slap them up. Yeah, just slap them up. Just slap them up. Just have your book open. Go through your book and highlight some stuff. You know what I'm saying? So you get your arguments together. Bye, bye, bye. Oh, all right, I'm going to say this. And then when they say this, okay, I'm going to flip to this page. All right, boom. Then I'm going to come back with this. Okay, wait. Oh, here's the fallacy for this. Oh, okay, boop. So then after they say that, I'm going to say this. Okay, boop. Yeah, you're going to see. You ain't going to need to go back and forth too much. You ain't going to need to go back and forth. It's going to be like, boop, boop, boop. Checkmate. It's a wrap. Checkmate. Hey. So, but hopefully though, that little, but here, let's look back at this, right? Let's look back at the other one, the first one with the flagella motor, because that's what we were looking at earlier, right? You gotta put this in your back pocket, right? You gotta put this in your back pocket and know, even if 20 people are telling you something in a matter-of-fact kind of way, like they sure, once you have the facts, they can't like unfact you. Once you have the facts, they can't like unfact you. You know what I'm saying? Like I was on Size Page yesterday. Right? I was on Size Page yesterday. And I was telling them about mitochondria. Like, no, mitochondria doesn't break down food. And mitochondria does not synthesize phosphates. And so I thought, now just get an idea of this. I thought that was going to be obvious to people when I highlighted that in my little video clip. I showed them the clip of Unc and Cedric saying whatever they were saying. I thought that was going to be obvious. No. Instead, what happened is the people on the panel and the people in the chat, they all flipped on me. It was like, Inky, you wrong. Mitochondria does break down food and produce phosphates. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy, right? Now, the reason why I'm giving you this example is because with that type of pressure, a lot of people would just collapse, right? But when you have the truth, it doesn't matter if 10 people, 20 people, or 100 people is saying the other thing. All you got to do is just relax in your truth. And then I'm just like, well, can we hit the share screen? Let's just hit the share screen. Let's just hit the share screen. I think we can clear up some confusion when we hit the share screen. Let's just hit the share screen. Then I hit the share screen. Does mitochondria actually metabolize food? No, mitochondria does not metabolize food. Does mitochondria synthesize phosphate? No, mitochondria does not synthesize phosphate. Instantly, everybody's quiet. And then after the quiet, well, you've been scamming. Oh, yo. Back in the days, that would have been like your mama. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. Yeah, that's what that is. Information has run out, and now it's time to just go crazy. Yeah, now it's time to go crazy. Information done ran out, so let's just go crazy. Makes for good content, though, sometimes. Yeah. What else we gonna do? Yeah, what else we gonna do? Only facts. Oh, you got a super chat? I definitely missed it. Let me see. Did I get any super chats? Let me see. Okay. A very important super chat. Technically, that's incorrect because that implies that every super chat is not super important. And trust me, we will dance for dinner. All super chats are critically important and needed. So let me find it. Oh, bam. Just like them people getting us hooked on his product. I've been doing like 4 watermelon in a day now and get the itch without it. I love Peyton. Oh man, I love Peyton. I really appreciate that. Yeah, that watermelon is different though. That watermelon is different. Yeah. Cause it's like I ain't gonna hold you. I thought I was in my Limitless bag. I don't know if y'all familiar with the Limitless movie or the TV show, but that's what I was on when I was making the watermelon, and I was like, yeah, I'm in my Limitless bag. So that's how I'll be up for hours. Like my day is different. I've merged days together to come up with my own schedule. Back in Kemet, they had 10-day weeks. Then somebody came along and made 7-day weeks. I'm like, I feel like I should be able to make 5-day weeks. Yep. Yeah, I can make like 4 or 5 days in my week. Yeah, it's not necessarily keep sleeping up the place. I had these concepts after death, like sleeping way too much. You start thinking about stuff like that, like, man, how many hours was I asleep out of all the years I've been alive? If I add that up, that's like 1/3 of my life. I did nothing but snore. Yeah, I need to get some work in. I need to write my name on earth. I need the earth to remember me. I was here. I existed. I am not going off into the wind. Y'all are trolling. Nah, yeah, Limitless. I'm telling you. Because your mind be, your dopamine level, like that, you be like you be going through the books. Then when you go to sleep, you dream. The information be like, you know what I'm saying? You got to read that Paul, I think me and you the only people that really understand it. The If P Then Q book is everything good in life. Y'all have to read this book. Where is that book? Y'all playing with this book. I'm telling you. Where is that book? Y'all are playing. Y'all got to read this book. I don't even know where it is. I need to organize these books. Boom. Here you go. Y'all got to read this book. If P, then Q. You have to read this book. I'm telling you. You want to know how to maximize your memory, your learning speed. This is one. This is one. This is one right here. This is going to put some concepts and some ideas into your mind that you won't be able to get out. Yeah, this is going to put some concepts into your mind you won't be able to get out. This might need to turn into its own curriculum. Yeah, at some point we're gonna revisit that. Yo, that was wow over there. That was wild over there. But back to the protein. So we have this as a problem to our ability to learn and move out of old paradigms into new paradigms, right? That's one of the things that we need to understand. To go from one paradigm of thinking into a new paradigm, we need more information. And those of us acquiring the information, this is an important thing. Those of us that are acquiring the information, you're always in the smaller group. And it's up to you to show your appreciation for the information and go out and educate the rest of the world, which is a very difficult job, right? Because when you have a paradigm, people have built their lives on that paradigm. So when you're asking them to come out of that paradigm, not only is it scary, but for some people, it's more difficult than that. You know, their lives, their money, the way they earn a living is tied into that paradigm. So they're not only not trying to get out of that paradigm, they're going to fight tooth and nail to defend it, right? They'll fight tooth and nail to defend it. So that's one of my bros texting me about my first round. Like it might be too intelligent for the people to understand. That is a very serious risk I have. People like, yo, Inky, you got this. You're going to win. I'm like, I'm going to win in the long run. I don't know about tomorrow. People have to understand what you're saying. Right? People have to understand what you're saying. You know, if I'm in there and I'm like, boop, bam, boop, bam, bam, boop, bam, bam. Boop, bam, boop, bam, bam, boop, bam, bam, boop, bam, bam. You know, and for me, it's more important to speak to the future. It's more important that I say the things that are correct, whether or not people are capable of processing them today or not. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's why sometimes with the books, there's a portion of the book we go through and then we put the book down. That's because some of what's in the book is for tomorrow. Some of what's in the books is for today. Some is for tomorrow. Right? It's a process. We build it. You know what I'm saying? But I have to take the opportunity to make sure I don't do a disservice. And that's the challenge whenever you speak into a bunch of people. The challenge is, like, say, for instance, a teacher has 30 kids in her class, right? Why do we always assume a teacher's a woman? Anyway, we'll roll with it for now, though. Let's say a teacher has 30 children in her class, right? In that class, you're going to have 5 children that are really slow. You're going to have 5 children that are really fast. And then you're going to have the 20 children that are somewhere like in the middle, right? Now, the problem is if the teacher speaks to the smartest kids in the class, the other 25 kids don't learn anything. If the teacher speaks to the 5 slowest children in the class. The 5 slowest children, they'll learn. The 20 children that are in the middle, they'll learn a few little things here and there. The 5 children that are fast, they might turn into juvenile delinquents because they're bored. They have nothing to do in there. They getting ready to run amok in that class. So you got to find a way to capture everybody, you know what I'm saying, and not sacrifice. I can't sacrifice the sharper people for the slow folks in the front. You know what I'm saying? You got to find a way to speak to everybody. So that's my challenge. My challenge is not actually the information. It's just making sure I communicate to everybody in an effective way and making sure that I represent the movement, melanin versus diabetes, in a way that we could look respectable after. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we got to make sure that we go in there and, you know, and I got it, you know what I'm saying? We got some. Yeah, we got some of that. It's gonna be some of that. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I know I keep getting off topic, right? But so we have this conundrum, right? We have this conundrum. And so what we have to realize is that our ancestors understood the world of energy as spirit. We just live in a gifted, special time period where we have technology and things like that, where we can start to understand, you know, kind of like the things that go bump in the night, the things that are not tangible, the things that we can't grab, the things that we can't necessarily see with the naked eye. We're able to go a lot deeper and get an understanding of how these things, the things in these spaces, right, subatomics actually regulates physics. And so we're moving out of one paradigm into another, because what's getting ready to happen is physics is it's not even gonna take a back seat. Our children's children, they're gonna grow up in a world where physics is outdated dinosaur thing. It's gonna be an outdated dinosaur thing to them. These ideas about mutations and all of this kind of stuff. That was the reason why I stopped the video when I think the molecular biologist was explaining how protons and proton gradients are regulating the activity in the bacteria. And that's why I said, well, this is exactly what's happening in our cells, right? So, because we just came up with something at what we could see, meaning there's a time period, like I think it's 1963 or something like that. We get the discovery of DNA and the genes and all this and all that, right? At least map it out. You know, Gregor Mendel and them figured out some stuff, but mapping it out, you know what I'm saying? We get that in the 60s. So now we have this blueprint where we can isolate stuff and we can see, oh, this is the gene that does this. This is the gene that does this. We don't really have a deeper view at that point. That's the full extent of what we can see, what we can observe. Now we have a much more deeper view and we can see what makes that up, what makes that up, and what controls that thing that makes that. Like there's a point where we think it's just protein in the body. And so we figure out DNA and genes. And so we like, oh, DNA and genes control the protein. Yo, this is it right here. This is the code of life. Now we're at a stage where we're like, hold up. This is what controls the DNA and the genes. Wait a minute. There's something back here. Okay, let's move that to the side. Now we over here. This is what controls the DNA and the genes. And a lot of these outdated models are right here in the gene space, right? And they don't have the reason why they don't have evidence, and this is why you can always just push that button. Can you show me the evidence? The reason they don't have evidence is because the evidence doesn't exist. That's the thing, and that's the thing they try to cover up. Say, for instance, there's a think about yourself. Say, for instance, police knocked at your door today, and they say, in Venezuela, yesterday in Venezuela, a bank got robbed, and you did it. You'd be like, what? Venezuela? What? I can't even get from here to Venezuela. What? I don't even know nobody. What? And they lock you up, and you go to court, and your lawyer is asking the judge and telling the jury, like, listen, they don't have no evidence. They don't have no evidence. And they come up and they say something slick like, yeah, we don't have any evidence, but that doesn't mean the evidence doesn't exist. And because we have reason to believe the evidence exists, even though we have never seen any evidence, nor can we show you any evidence, we want you to convict it. Oh my goodness. It's wild. It is wild. So that's what we got to do. When we talking about proteins, we have to stick to the blueprint. We got to stick to the 64 codons. We got to stick to what we can understand. We got to stick to what we can validate. We have to stick to actual science. We have to stick to actual science. And that tomorrow is going to be on display. That tomorrow will be on display. In fact, I'm going to go wrestle with my babies. They got out of school early today. And then probably later on, act a fool.
This is why you have to go to Amazon and get the book, Rich Abs, Poor Abs, now.